So the cool thing is, I knew when Guido Turini told me that he wanted to create a purple dial, it wouldn't just be a sort of striking purple. It would be something full of modulation, subtle detail. And you can see this dial in this light, like it changes color. It has hues of gray to it. It's incredibly soft. It's got like kind of a hint of like a beautiful claret, and then it turns back into a slightly more deep and intense ruby as well. And that's the thing I love about it. It's so much subtlety in this dial, right? And it goes with everything. I'm wearing a gray suit today, but I've worn it with a Hawaiian shirt when I was out in California. I absolutely love it. And I also love the significance represented by the color purple. Purple was the color reserved for royalty back in ancient Rome. In ancient Greece, by legislature, only noble people could wear the color purple. And so I love the idea of a watch called Purple Reign, R-E-I-G-N, in deference to the history of this amazing color. Well, follow me, let's have a coffee and we'll keep talking about it. So as you can see here, now we're indoors, we're in this beautiful coffee shop near my office, and the dial has actually softened. It's not as deep, it's not as vibrant, it's a lot more subtle. Indirect light, it almost turns into almost a gray color, right? And I think that's really remarkable about it. So the cool thing is Guido Turini was actually deeply influenced by Le Corbusier and his color theory. In 1931, Le Corbusier came out with a color chart that showed you how every color could actually be harmoniously blended together if it was exactly the right hue. And I think that that's the mastery of what Guido Turini does. He always finds exactly the right hue to express subtlety and elegance. Let's get a coffee. Hi, how are you? When this watch was launched back in 2021, it absolutely revolutionized the integrated bracelet market. Why? Because of three reasons. The first thing was that this watch is a master of ergonomics, and I want to show you something really cool. So I'm going to release a bracelet on my watch, and I'm going to turn it like this. And as you can see, the watch actually stays perfectly on the wrist. Most other integrated bracelet watches would flop around immediately, right? But that's because the watch is so incredibly balanced. And also, check this out, it is the integration of the curvature into that watch. In fact, I think this is the greatest achievement in ergonomics in watches since 1921 when Louis Cartier created the Temps Cintré and made a watch that really paid deference to human morphology. As you can see here, the amazing thing about this watch is you have these huge flared lugs, and they are on the very extreme of the watch case, and they follow directly this compound curve into the first ring of the bracelet. That creates this amazing curvature on your wrist that fits perfectly. The second thing that I love about the Parmigiani Fleury Temps de Pief is it is a masterpiece of subtle detail. If you look at the dial, this pattern is called Grain d'Orge, and Grain d'Orge means barley, but it is applied with such minute detail that in some light it almost appears invisible, right? And that's because Guido Turini used all new CNC technology in order to create a pattern that's so minute and so small. In fact, he actually made a pattern that was even smaller than this, but he realized that when he put the sapphire crystal on top of the watch, that you couldn't see the pattern at all, which I absolutely love. Then on top of that, check out this bezel, the beautiful subtle fluting on this platinum bezel. And yes, this is a steel watch, the bezel is platinum. And why did Guido Turini do this? It's because the color platinum is a little bit brighter white than steel. And so when you look at it, you suddenly see a slight contrast between the color of the bezel and the color of the steel body. Your brain is trying to figure it out and trying to register why it's so cool looking. That combined with the minute detailing of the fluting of the bezel, combined in addition with that with the tiny Grain d'Orge pattern on the dial, and you're just understanding all this visual richness, but your brain struggles to explain exactly why you're being so emotionally affected by the watch until you wear it longer and you start to recognize, oh, it's because of that, oh, it's because of that. And that's the thing I love about the Parmigiani Fleury Temps de Pief. The more you wear it, the more you discover about it, right? And I think that that's sort of a wonderful thing to have, a relationship with watch over a long time, and that's the beauty of the Temps de Pief. The last thing that Guido Turini has done also is that he has mastered also subtle complication. So there's two watches that he created. One is called the GMT Rattrapant and one is called the GMT Minute. And both of those watches have hands that are superimposed on top of each other. The hour hand in the case of the GMT Rattrapant that you can then split on demand to show another time zone. Or in the Minute Rattrapant, you've got two hands superimposed on top of each other, which you could also split, and you have kind of a countdown function for the minutes as well. These are complications that had never existed before and that you can hide completely, following on this whole concept of the mastery of subtlety and the mastery of nuance, which has now become the brand identity of Parmigiani Fleury, and which is what makes the brand so exciting to me. So when I walked into Geneva Watch Days in 2021 and I saw this watch being displayed, I absolutely went crazy for it. I put it on my wrist, and the great thing about this watch is the more you wear it, the more difficult it is to take off because it's such an effortless watch to wear. Like when I write my articles, a lot of times I'll take my watch up and set it on my desk. But in this case, I'll just keep it on because you, at some point, even forget you have the watch on. So wonderful is its mastery of ergonomics. So after I fell in love with it, I spoke to Guido Turini. He allowed me to buy this watch. So this is my own personal Temps de Pief black dial watch from 2021. But somehow that wasn't enough. And so I finally got my courage up and spoke to Guido, and I said, listen, brother, do you think it might be possible for us to collaborate on a limited edition of this incredible watch? And to my surprise, amazement, and delight, he said yes. And that is this watch. This is the Parmigiani Faliero Times Revolution Tonda PF Serenissima. And what the Serenissima refer to, it is the Italian word for serenity, which is a nickname for Venice, this beautiful island city in the Adriatic Sea. And the color of this dial is inspired by the sun rising over the Adriatic Sea in the Gulf of Venice. I would frequently go for runs along the coastline of Venice, and I would look at the sun and I would think, wow, this is like one of the most magical colors I've ever seen. And that became the inspiration for this dial. We made 25 of these watches last year. They sold out really quickly. And for everyone that has one, we just want to thank you for your patronage. So why the name Purple Rain? Well, as much as I love the Prince song, it's not a specific reference to that. In fact, the rain in this name is actually R-I-G-N, which refers to the fact that purple back in the day was a color for royalty. In fact, back in the Roman Empire, it's only emperors that could wear the color. And in ancient Greece, you had to be recognized as a nobleman by legislature in order for you to wear the color purple, right? So the other cool thing about purple is, in fact, a mixture of red and blue. Red being fiery by nature and blue being tranquil by nature. And when you merge these two colors, you result in something that embodies power and dignity. And we couldn't think of a better watch for that colorway to be encased in than the Parmigiani Faliero Tonda PF. This is the Revolution Times Parmigiani Faliero Tonda PF Purple Rain. I hope you love it as much as I do. Cheers.